Welcome to Lessons from a High School Dropout. My name is Troy Thomas Joseph Fitch. Today's topic is titled, Awaken the Genius from Within. Over 240 years ago, there was a revolution, an American Revolution, an event that literally changed the course of history. It was led by a group of unsatisfied people who were tired of being told what they could do and when they could do it. People who were fed up with their lack of personal choice and personal freedoms. People fed up with their lives being controlled by others. Fed up with being oppressed, fed up with being manipulated, and they finally said, enough, I've had it, I'm not going to live like this anymore. Our ancestors were people who took full responsibility of what happened to them. It was that spirit that ignited a country and formed what is now a giant in the free world. I have a question for you. Where is that spirit today? It's time for another revolution. Let me explain one of the laws of the universe. It's called the law of use. Lack of use causes loss. It simply says if you don't use it, you lose it. Lack of use causes loss. Ambition in use declines. Faith in use decreases. If you don't use your skills, you lose your skills. If you don't use your freedoms, you lose your freedom. Freedom doesn't come automatically. It is not obtained and handed down to us like an inheritance. It must be achieved each day. At the turn of the 19th century, in the year 1900, less than 10% of the people worked for someone else or the government. And over 90% of us were self-employed, and we were an independent people. By 1980, only 80 years later, 90% of us work for other people or the government, and less than 10% of us were self-employed. We changed from an independent people to a dependent people. We slowly shifted to a people who took full responsibility for everything that happened to them, so people became talented and practiced at the art of blaming others for their problems. Our giant has fallen asleep. Our forefathers didn't say, who is going to take care of me? They simply said, all I ask is for the opportunity to be free and the ability to take care of myself and my family. Today we elect officials who quote unquote take care of us. We cry out against anyone who dares to ask to bring more value to the workplace. We do everything we can to spread around the suffering in our society. No one is willing to step up and be a part of the solution. We've slowly changed from a society that compensates based on value to a society that compensates based on entitlement and seniority. We've come to believe it's our due. We act as if someone actually owes us a living. Part of this change is due to a dramatic rise in conformity in our society. We are taught to conform. Incredible pressures are put on us every day to do things, quote unquote, the right way. And yet no one asks the question, is this really the right way? There was a study done in the 1960s, and it was commissioned by NASA because they wanted to know how to hire more geniuses. So they hired George Land and his team to go out and figure out what makes a genius. So they started with a group of 5-year-olds, and they gave them a creative test. The way they defined genius was how you use your creativity to solve problems. And what they found was a group of 5-year-olds which 98% qualified as geniuses. Then they came back 5 years later when this group was 10 years old, and it was down to 30%. 5 years later, 15%. At 15 years of age, it was down to 12%. And then I think they kind of just gave up in disgust. But George Land took a little further and went out and surveyed adults and found that genius was only at a level of 2% in adults. He attributed this 100% to our education system because we have created a shift in our population of 98% genius and dumbed them down to 2%. George Land stated this is due to the simple fact that uncreativity behavior and thinking are learned. It is time for another revolution. A revolution to take back our creativity and allow creativity to conform in the young minds. There is no time to waste at this point. So please share my words with others, because without people uniting to protect the future geniuses of our society, we perish as a leader in the free world, and our freedoms will diminish, and our once great nation will collapse from within due to the conformity that has devastated our society. May peace be with you, and may God bless our nation, and as we take back the genius our nation once held. Thank you for listening to this message. I hope you will take time to share it, because I think it's a very important topic that I think many people are ready for. I travel this nation, I travel this world, and as I meet and greet and talk to people, I often get into these conversations, and I hope that you will too, because it's very important for our country. Again, thank you, and God bless.